Welcome to the ultimate guide to beer carbonation. In this video, we will dive into the science behind beer carbonation, explore the techniques used by brewers, and unravel the mysteries of natural carbonation. Whether you're a homebrew enthusiast or just curious about the bubbles in your beer, this guide is for you. Let's start with the science. Carbonation is what makes beer come alive and taste better. It is the process of dissolving carbon dioxide, CO2, in beer. During fermentation, yeast consumes sugars and produces alcohol and CO2. The CO2 is what gives beer its fizziness. But did you know that the CO2 produced during fermentation can have different flavors compared to the CO2 used for carbonation? That's right! The CO2 produced during fermentation can sometimes have off flavors due to the yeast being stressed or other compounds present. Now let's talk about how brewers carbonate beer. There are two main methods: natural carbonation and forced carbonation. Today we will focus on natural carbonation and also give you a glimpse into how professionals carbonate beer in a brewery. In a brewery, precision is key. The beer is first chilled to around 38 degrees Fahrenheit. The head pressure is set according to the desired carbonation level. A flow meter is used to ensure even carbonation. CO2 is then introduced through a carbonation stone at a controlled rate. The flow rate is crucial. Too slow and it won't mix properly. Too fast, and you might lose some of that precious head retention. The beer is then allowed to sit for 12 to 24 hours to let the CO2 fully dissolve. For homebrewers, natural carbonation is a popular method. It involves adding a small amount of fermentable sugar to the beer before bottling. This kicks off a mini fermentation inside the bottle, producing CO2. This method is simple but requires careful measurement of sugar to avoid overcarbonation. To naturally carbonate your beer, you'll need a fermentable sugar. Common choices are white sugar, honey, or even apple juice concentrate. A general rule of thumb is to use 1 ounce of sugar per gallon of beer. Mix the sugar into your beer to ensure it's evenly distributed before bottling. It's important to use bottles that can handle pressure. Seal the bottles and store them in a safe place for a couple of weeks. This allows the yeast to consume the sugar and produce CO2, carbonating your beer. A pro tip: before serving naturally carbonated beer, chill it. Chilling contracts the liquid and keeps the CO2 in suspension, preventing a gusher effect when you open the bottle. Now let's talk about some common mistakes. One mistake is using inconsistent amounts of sugar in each bottle, which can lead to varying levels of carbonation. Another mistake is using bottles that can't handle the pressure, which can be dangerous as they might explode. It's also important to note that if you pasteurize your beer to stop fermentation and then add more sugar for carbonation, you must ensure that there's enough yeast present. If not, you won't get any carbonation. However, adding too much yeast can create bottle bombs. It's a delicate balance. Also, never attempt to carbonate a beer that still has a significant amount of fermentable sugars. This will lead to overcarbonation and is a recipe for disaster. Let's dive deeper into the science behind those bubbles. Carbon dioxide is more soluble in cold liquids, which is why chilling is crucial in the carbonation process. The bubbles in your beer are not just CO2, they are a combination of CO2, air, and vaporized beer. These bubbles play a significant role in releasing aromas and flavors as they burst. Yeast is a magical microorganism that plays a pivotal role in carbonation. During fermentation, yeast consumes sugars and produces alcohol and CO2. Different strains of yeast can affect the carbonation process. Some yeasts are more efficient at consuming sugars, while others might produce more CO2. As a home brewer, experimenting with different yeast strains can yield interesting results in carbonation. Different styles of beer have different carbonation preferences. For instance, British ales often have a softer carbonation, while Belgian ales are highly carbonated. Understanding the traditional carbonation levels of different beer styles can help you achieve the desired mouthfeel and flavor profile. Earlier, we touched on natural carbonation. Now let's talk about forced carbonation. This method involves using a CO2 tank to directly inject CO2 into the beer. This is a faster method compared to natural carbonation and is widely used in commercial breweries. Forced carbonation allows for precise control over the level of carbonation. In a brewery, carbonation stones are often used. These are porous stones that create fine bubbles of CO2, allowing for more efficient dissolution of the gas into the beer. The size and material of the carbonation stone can affect the quality of carbonation. Serving carbonated beer is an art in itself. The type of glassware, the pouring technique, and the serving temperature can all affect how carbonation is perceived. For example, glasses with a wider rim allow for more aromas to be released, enhancing the drinking experience. When pouring a carbonated beer, tilting the glass at an angle and gradually straightening it as you pour can help control the formation of the head. The head of the beer is not just for looks. It releases aromas and adds to the texture of the beer. Carbonation can also play a role in food pairing. The bubbles in carbonated beer can cleanse the palate, making it an excellent companion for rich and fatty foods. The carbonation can lift flavors and refresh the palate between bites. For the adventurous homebrewers out there, you can experiment with DIY carbonation techniques. For instance, using fruit juices as a natural source of sugar for carbonation can impart interesting flavors to your beer. Just be cautious and always prioritize safety. Did you know that carbonation has a rich history? Before the science of carbonation was understood, beers were often naturally carbonated through the fermentation process. The effervescence in beer was once considered a mysterious and cherished quality. As we conclude this ultimate guide, let's raise a glass to the marvel that is carbonation. It's not just about the bubbles. It's about the symphony of flavors, aromas, and textures that make each sip of beer an experience. From the science behind carbonation to the art of serving a perfectly carbonated beer, we hope this guide has enriched your knowledge and appreciation for the effervescence in your glass. Whether you're a seasoned brewmaster or someone who simply enjoys a fizzy pint, remember that behind every bubble is a combination of science, tradition, and passion. Thank you for joining us on this bubbly journey. If you have any questions or want to share your own carbonation adventures, leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more brewing insights. Until next time, may your beers be bubbly and your hearts be light. Cheers!